Hello and welcome back to Dry Conversations. I'm your host, Whitney Cowell. Joining me today is Chadd Olesen, the CEO of AVRL. Hey,
Hi,
Chadd.
Whitney.
I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk with you. We've crossed paths a couple of times, but I really don't know too much about your story outside of the company that you've built. So I'm pretty excited to hear a little bit more about you.
Awesome. I don't usually share like my background too much. So I grew up in Oregon, and my family are actually grassy farmers. And so I grew up on a farm. I didn't have like traditional summer like most people. That was work time for us. And so like when I think of like my background, like even pre that, my dad was a corporate executive. We moved every 2 years. When he retired, I was in the fifth grade. We moved back to where my mom grew up, which is on my family's like farm. And basically from fifth grade, I started working. And when we look at like how that works, literally like 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and then on Sunday we would go boating. And I think that that's like really intense because when I wasn't in school, I was working.
Yeah.
If I wasn't playing a sport, I was working, and that was interesting from even the standpoint of if I didn't play football, I'm small. I wasn't gonna play football. Like I was working during that time, and so like I I think that my path towards entrepreneurship is because of work ethic that I don't think I inherently have. I think that it's something that's been like jammed down my throat to
Sure.
the max, and I think that that also probably gives me a sense of pride, that
Mhm.
I didn't want to be a farmer. I wanted to go out and do my own thing. I moved to the big city of Portland, Oregon, which is like hilarious as a comment. Um, and I actually, like when I graduated from college, I tried to work in the workforce. And
Mhm.
I just felt like I was constantly leading the team everywhere I went. And I remember my wife telling me that if I didn't go and work for myself, I'd probably never be happy. And I had already known my co-founder, and we started AVRL. And I was pretty young; I was in my early 20s when that happened. So that's kind of my background.
It's interesting that you feel like it was shoved down your throat, yet it's something that you've continued, right? That type of work ethic is that still a piece of you that you're glad that you have that like
Yeah,
still drives you today?
yeah. I think it's really interesting. I have really bad ADHD, and so if I'm not working, I feel like I'm not productive, and if I'm not productive, then I feel like I'm just wasting time.
Sure.
And I actually have this new employee that joined us maybe like a month ago, and on Friday, it's like the first Friday he's worked with me, and this was last Friday. He messaged me on Teams and he was like, "Happy Friday, excited for the weekend." And I just wrote, "No, we hate Fridays. Like Fridays, everyone gets to be done with work, and my leadership team probably still works all weekend." And I think it's this like not because I feel like I have to work and AVRL falls apart. I think it's just like if I'm not going to go out and do something, then I'm probably going to work.
Yeah.
You probably aren't going to catch me like just sitting on the couch watching TV. I'm I would rather be working during that time.
So then how do you balance like
There's no
the mental health
balance.
piece of that, right? Because we're not wired, I think, to like go 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 go, give it 100% every single day. Like I have found that's not sustainable. Sometimes I show up and I've only got like 80% in my tank, and of course I'm going to wring that out for everything that it's worth. But how do you find that kind of balance and still like stay connected to yourself?
That's an interesting question. I think I'm I'm not religious, but I'm very like a fairly spiritual person. And I have a home in Sedona, and my wife and I spend probably like 10 days a month there. We'll go and I'll work from there. And when I'm there, I will stop working at like 5 and go on a hike with her. We have better conversations. We don't have a TV. It's like it's this like shift completely. And then when I'm in Austin, which is where I live full time, I I don't have very good mental health, and I think that I can like grind to a max, and then I get on an airplane and I go to a different life with my family, and I'm probably a different person completely. I actually have friends tell me, again, I'm in a good mood. They're like, "Oh, you're like Sedona Chadd now."
I mean, to be fair, Sedona does that to people. It's a beautiful place. That's actually where we honeymooned.
Oh, awesome.
And it was amazing. So I can see how that's a great place to unplug.
Yeah, but I think like I read a lot. I write down like a lot of those thoughts. I grew up in this like really small, like the town that I grew up in is like 1,700 people. It's really, really small. Yeah. And like if you didn't play like sports, you were a loser. Like the smart kids weren't like, you were a loser if you were smart. If you were in band, you were a loser. Like that, like kind of environment is where I grew up. And I think that's like really unfortunate for a lot of people that grow up in really small towns that have to like face that type of adversity, is when you like you externally look outward towards the world. Like music is so important. Like there's way more to life than sports. Like, but you get trapped into these little bubbles. And I think like one of those things that I do now that I probably wouldn't like have ever started doing if I wouldn't have moved is like journaling. Like I write a lot. A lot of people don't know this, but like the things that I write on LinkedIn, I don't like script them out. It's usually something that I'm thinking, like the moment that I'm thinking. I wrote a post today because I had about A players, and like A players will leave if you surround them with C players. And it's because I had someone who I've known for a really long time call me this morning and was like, "Hey, I want to come and work for AVRL." He's like, "I see what you guys are doing. I see what you're building. I want to surround myself with people like that. I want to work hard." And I'm sitting here and I'm like, this person is like a really good candidate. And it's really unfortunate that his current environment of work doesn't support what he's doing. And he feels like he's dragging his team along to the point where he's actively looking only like I don't even know if he cares about the work. He's just looking to be in a culture of like-minded people.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And I think that piece, because culture, I feel like is such a buzzword, but there is a lot to it if you pay attention to it, right? Like, because other people can stifle your A team, if they're not serving a common purpose, if they don't have that common goal. And I'm curious how you keep the energy up on your team, because I know that you're a pedal to the metal kind of person. So how does that shape out in how you lead your team and the expectations that you put on them for the quality of work that you guys do?
I'm going to separate my teams into like two different buckets.
Okay.
My engineers are like we really beat the crap out of them. Like they're phenomenal. And we have to structure their day in a really unique way. We don't have meetings for them after 8 a.m. You're not going to get them on a call, because what ends up happening is we put really tight timelines on. And if I put a meeting on their calendar at 11 a.m., that means at 10:30, they're going to stop working. And then they're going to have to context switch back into work. And so it's not fair for me to drive them hard if I'm also going to interrupt their day with meetings with customers, pointless things to do. And so really trying to respect the boundaries that we put on them that support the expectations that we have. When you look at our sales and our commercial team, there aren't expectations. I have zero expectation that Madison or Sydney would work as hard as I do. However, when you get into our sales team and you see how hard everyone else is working, you start to just adopt it because you want to run as fast as everybody else. I was like really proud of Sydney when we hired her. Our pitch is really hard. You've seen like the tech that we deploy. It's really complex, and it's really complex for brokers. And it's hard, right? It's not this like easy tech that you implement and it just like magically works. You have to continue to like tweak it and massage it and change it like continuously, and it becomes part of like your organization.
Right.
Sydney was really struggling to learn the pitch, and there's like no pressure from us, but she felt pressure because she's not able to sell by herself until like she had it down, and she ended up building like 75 flashcards. She has them. It's like a stack like this big. And she would literally just spend all like after work just studying and studying and studying. And when we asked her why, she was like, I just felt like I was letting the team down. And I feel like people probably have this misconception of me as a leader by what I write on LinkedIn versus what it's like for my team. I do all the crappy stuff. Like I do all the stuff that they don't want to do at night when they're with their families. I'm prospecting for them. I'm like rebuilding their decks. I'm rebuilding this. And they're like thinking about strategy. That's what I do on the weekend. And I like have realized that that's my role in the organization. Like I take all the crap. I take all this shitty stuff that no one wants to do.
Yeah. And I love that is truly the definition of like a servant's heart in leadership, right? That is something that says, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. Yeah. And sometimes I'm going to say, I value like your boundaries and what you're doing and your role and your strengths. So I'm just going to do them anyways, because I feel that's the best way that I can support you so that you can keep running at the pace that you're at. And I love that. I mean, it's really important. And I think some people, well, I know because I've seen it, that some leaders kind of miss that mark. And it's like, well, I'm the captain of the ship. Now everybody else row.
Yeah.
And I don't know that is the most encouraging way to approach teams, especially that work with the type of capacity and complexity that we see sometimes in the supply chain.
Yeah, I think that when a leader leads that way, you can see it trickle down to other leaders on their team. Right. I think like Madison on my team, like she's super aggressive. Anyone that's ever met her is like, this person's like super intense. But like as a teammate, oh my gosh, you're like going like above and beyond. I have another employee named Jessica. Jessica like leads ops at my organization, and like she'll be on with my CTO at 10 p.m. Central Time. My CTO lives in Europe. That's like 4 or 5 a.m. his time. And I think that people would probably be shocked at how the culture internally AVRL works versus what externally everyone else sees. It's probably night and day from what they think.
If you were to pull back that curtain a little bit to, I guess, kind of define how you came to the decision and how you choose to like protect the culture of your organization, what would that be? Like if somebody thinks that maybe they're doing it wrong and they want to take a page from your book to have a better understanding of how you protect that culture and foster it.
Yeah, I've been like thinking about culture a lot because I read this like passage that was like, if you don't define your culture, someone else will define it for you.
Yeah.
And I agree with it to some extent, and to some extent I don't. Like I feel like you look at like, I'm gonna use like Nike as an example. Like Nike has these like governance rules and like this is the culture. And you go there and you like meet people and you're like, these like I wouldn't expect this type of person to work at Nike. We have very specific type of team. Like everyone is on our like commercial side is type A. They argue with one another. Like we don't want to hire someone who's not willing to like put out their own opinion. And we probably run that commercialization team more like Bridgewater Associates, where it's like very argumentative, like we fight. And the reason why we're fighting is because this is what I believe is best for the customer. And then we look at customer success and they're like, I like that. Like, I don't care. We should tell the customer they're right. And we like are like, no, they're wrong. Like they need to know that they're wrong. the way that our culture has been formed has just been super organic. And I think based off of a lot of failure, like we've hired people, like I tried to do the thing that like a lot of startups do. Like I wanted to hire people from Microsoft and Amazon and Salesforce.
Yeah.
And like the last person that I hired from an organization like that lasted 45 days. At a project coordinator, that our project manager that we had hired, she lasted 28 days, and she wrote me this long email about how she didn't have time to go to the bathroom. And we're sitting here and we're like, your project manager, you can't manage like your own calendar like that. Like, yes, you shouldn't work here and you should go back to Microsoft 100%. But I think that our culture has been built organically from the people that we've hired, like in trying to hire a very specific type of personality. And it sucks. We don't really post a job. Like when I post a job, I'm trying to see like, let's see what kind of talent exists.
Yeah.
Who could we start talking to? Statistically, I don't hire those people. The last 4 people I've hired on my commercialization team, or people that I met in the industry, we talked for like 6 months and then we ended up hiring them. I met Sydney at a conference and she came and introduced herself to someone that was sitting like right next to me. And they were talking for like 3 minutes and I was like, hey, I have no idea who you are. I'm sorry, but you have green lettuce in your teeth. And she was like, oh my gosh, I ate like an hour ago and I was just with my team and I'm sitting here and no one's told me this. Like, thank you so much. I'm about to go to the biggest meeting of my life. And Sydney and I started talking. We talked for like 6 months and then we took her out to dinner with one of our customers and our customer interviewed her. And then we decided like that was the right teammate for us,
Right.
you know? Yeah. So I don't know if like, I don't have a playbook on like how to build culture or what that is. I'm probably like the worst person to ask about that. I just want to be direct and I expect the people that I hire to be direct. And I think that that is a product and I think our culture is a product of that.
Well, I don't know that you need a playbook for everything to be like a winning strategy. You know, like you said, it happened organically. And some of the best things in my life, inside and outside of the workplace, have been through organic interactions or situations. You know, I think it takes intentionality on behalf of the leadership team or the founder, or, you know, depending on the structure of your organization and how big it is.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if you're being intentional about how you're approaching your team, then I don't know that you have to have a playbook. I think that right there sets a standard that like it can happen organically and be a total win for everybody and like you said, and then there's this like natural selection process that kind of happens where people feel probably very quickly whether or not that is a right fit for them. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's also successful. You wouldn't have wanted that person to stay with you for months absolutely tanking at their job. Like it's a good thing that, you know, a couple weeks in they were like, this is not it. And you're like, great, it's not it for me either. Like, I wish you the best.
Yeah. I think that it actually like goes deeper than our internal culture. Like if someone were to talk to one of our customers, like we're pretty blunt, like we're a blunt instrument, like as a team, you know, like we might not be a fit for every organization. Mm-hmm. If you want to win and you like aren't like you're okay with a thought partner who's going to tell you like exactly what they're thinking and how you probably should deploy the technology for like best in class, we're a good partner. If you want to tell us that you know more about something than us and it fails, not going to be like a good fit for us. And we recently had an experience where we hadn't even invoiced them. So it was under 30 days. Like a customer was trying to bully my team and we terminated our agreement with them within the first like 20 days. I'm just like sitting here. I'm like, this is going to lead to a bad situation no matter what. There's no good outcome for the way that they're treating our team. Just not going to do that. And I think our next evolution as an organization is we're really trying to find like the companies that want to be the good partner on the backside. And the hard thing is that when you look in logistics or with freight brokers and carriers, like their job is to wear people down, you know, like they grind on their carriers, they wear their shippers down, they wear their vendors down. Like And if you look at your relationship with somebody, like every conversation that you have either brings you closer together or pushes you further apart. And I feel like a lot of the 3PLs that are in the market don't know how to work with vendors. And so they end up just pushing each other away from each other. And then
Yeah.
they're like, the tech didn't work. And it's like, well, culturally, you either want them as a partner or you don't. And I think that a lot of 3PLs and carriers and business leaders need to think about like, what are the interactions that we're having, not just with, like, I guess with all partners that we have.
Yeah. And that, I think that's a good point, is like, first of all, when you said, how you guys operate, with your customers, I've seen that, and it's very true. And I think that's a reflection of you and your personality that's kind of instilled to the core of the business, is like, I'm not going to skirt around what I feel is the right thing to do. And I think that that's very admirable. And then the second piece of that I think is incredibly important, and the role that I'm in now, absolutely love it when I work with customers who know who their customers are. Like, they know who they should and should not be working with. It's not a catch-all, we're in it for the dollar. That does not make a lot of sense. That is not a sustainable common ground for a relationship to be built between two parties.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen you guys in action, and I've heard, from the back end, because we kind of ideaed together about like, what would it look like maybe if I joined your organization when you were expanding about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that kind of came up, is how do you decide your yes and your no? And that's something that you take very seriously and evaluate very strongly. And I think, I hope that that's a trend that we start seeing more companies in the supply chain start pivoting towards, because that is a win for everybody. That is a strategic way to look at a partnership. And it is another way, I think, to be kind and caring, honestly, to the people that you are going to work with. Like you said, if it's not going to end well, that takes wisdom to know that. And I think there's just a lot of honesty in approaching that before things end in flames.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we obviously still have a lot of maturing to do as an organization. And I'm trying to figure out the gaps that exist for our customers. Like, one of the paths that we're on right now is like a super empathetic path for us, which is that we know that most of the 3PLs and carriers in the market can't afford best pricing people in the market. They can't afford analysts. They can't afford people who know how to write Python and SQL. And so I'm going to build a market intelligence team, and I'm going to give it to my customers for free. And it has nothing to do with like us wanting to take best talent out of the market. It has everything to do with the fact that, like, when we looked internally at customer success, we were like, you can either have customer success that is a glorified project coordinator that just routes complaints to my engineering team and back and forth, or we could have someone or a team to come in to be like, hey, tell us your strategy, the strategy that you want to run, and we're going to tell you how we're going to execute it together, and we're going to shift into this forward facing role and move that way. And I think that that's what customer success looks like for us in the future, and I'm going to absorb all the cost on it.
I love that. It's truly finding a solution and taking action on it. It's not waiting around for somebody else to do it. And that's, I think that going back to the very beginning of the conversation, it's that work ethic of like, well, I see a gap. Why would I wait for somebody else to fill it when I know that I have the tools and resources and the drive to make that happen?
Yeah. And I think that our tech's not like the easiest to use, and we don't want it to be the easiest to use, because we want sophisticated teams to be able to build like really complex things.
Right.
And we see a lot of freight tech that tries to dumb down technology because they think the broker's not smart. We know the brokers are super smart. They just aren't as familiar with technology, or they have fantastic ideas. They just don't know how to put that into technology or to deploy a strategy in technology. I want to empower them. I want to empower the brokers to understand like how smart they are, and how, like, this isn't like rocket science. It's not the hardest thing in the world. Does it take effort? Yeah. Does it take commitment? Yeah. But if you do it right, you don't see like a 1 or 2 time magnitude ROI gain. You see like 10, 20, 30x returns. Like some of the stats, you know about them, that like our customers see are like in the hundreds of % of like growth.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I would love to, as we're kind of coming up on time, circle back to the beginning. We were talking about mental health and founders, because we are in a space where there are founders, there's new technology, it's new talent that's emerging, kind of advocating for themselves and taking their own leaps. For anybody that is in that position or considering that, what kind of advice and wisdom would you give them in making that happen, and B, taking care of themselves, that mental health piece as a founder that you would give?
The level of aloneness that you feel as like a founder is super real, and it's really probably not talked enough about. But because you experience these like super high highs and the super low lows, and they can happen in exactly the same exact day, that's really interesting. The challenge is that when you look at being a founder, I don't even think necessarily talking to other founders like gives someone like better mental health. It helps you relate with somebody or understand that someone experiencing something like similar to you, but no one experiences the same thing as you. And I don't know if you've ever read this book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin.
I haven't.
It's so phenomenal. He talks about that the best musicians or the best artists feel emotion differently than other people. And that was like something that I had never like thought about in the context of like, I understand that people have like different beliefs than me. They definitely feel things differently than me. I almost have like no empathy as a human being. Like that's just like not how I was raised, and that's not like how I think. But as like a founder, like the lows of a founder, I couldn't experience the same low that you experience. It might affect you way more than it affects me. And so really no one's gone through the exact same thing at the exact same time and felt the same things. When I was it was like 2019, my company was like almost out of money, like thousands of dollars in like the bank account. And we were able to like turn it around like really well. And I literally think we had like, I don't even know how many 1,000% growth like the following year. But my company was almost dead. And I like the sense of like failure is real. What I think is probably like more common for a lot of people is you lose a customer and you don't want your team to be discouraged, because who cares? Like there are thousands of customers and you got to keep moving forward regardless. And you got to like learn from like your experiences, like where you failed and how you can get better and how you avoid that in the future. Like that as a founder. And then I get on with my sales team and I like got to encourage them to go and like win, and maybe not even tell them yet that the customer has like left. Like that stuff is really hard. And even if like I talk to my wife about it, she doesn't understand like how I'm feeling. But that's something that I've talked to a lot of founders about, is like having your worst day and you got to put on your clown face and go pretend like nothing happened and that you're not affected. That's a really hard thing.
How have you found the strength in doing that? And does it get easier with time? Like that was a couple years ago. So how is that experience different today?
I think that you always have problems. You always feel beat down. I think that every startup founder probably thinks that their company is like the biggest piece of garbage on the planet. Like, honestly, like I really think that if you ask them like deep down, like, are you guys doing a good job? You're like, well, we could be doing a lot better and we could be going faster and we could be doing this. And you're constantly like you feel like that. I think today the challenges that I deal with are a magnitude more than the challenges that I dealt with before. I have 70 employees-ish, maybe, I don't know. And that means that if something hits my desk, it's already gone through all of its escalation points and I got to deal with like a big problem, like, and so like I just had a conversation with my CTO the other day, and he was like, dude, I just feel like I just deal with like only the biggest problems. And I think that as your startup grows, like, like when you're starting, you're like, big challenges, like we don't know how to price, or like we can't get funding, or we can't like do this. So then all of a sudden you have a real business and you have like really big problems.
Yeah.
And like when it hits your desk, you're like, did that, it's already boiled up and bubbling over as a problem. Yeah.
Right. So what do you do in those times to kind of level yourself back out? Because that is a lot. It's a lot to carry. It's a lot to confront. So what is your solution in like leveling it out, and maybe not always needing to wear the clown face, but like still being able to say, I still love what I do?
I think when you can see, excuse me, founders probably don't share the good things that happen enough. I think when I first started AVRL, we would sign like a contract and we would celebrate it. At this point, when we sign a contract, it's like, great, get them into onboarding, because like, let's get this thing scaled like as quickly as possible. And so you guys stop celebrating. I probably encourage founders to celebrate everything that you can. We don't. I probably should. I think that it would probably like help, a lot more. Like it would probably help encourage the team. And but I think that I don't know if they have like a good like response to like how I handle it today. I think that I carry stress with me like 24/7, 365. I have Ryan Schreiber was like, you should get like a Snoop, that like wristband that measures your heart rate and how much you sleep and all this stuff. I was like, I don't think that would be it. I think that might stress me out more to know like what's going on inside of this.
That's fair. I'm really stressed by that too. I've been checking it all the time.
Yeah,
that's not good.
My CTO has one, and he was like, dude, I'm only effectively sleeping 4 hours a night, and like, and yeah, I'm just like, I don't even want to know how much I'm getting like full REM. That's not it. I just would prefer not to know.
Yeah. I can relate to that. There's like a book called When Helping Hurts, and I hear of things like that with certain pieces of technology, and it's like, I think that that's you thinking you're helping, and it's just gonna make my anxiety go through the roof.
Yeah, but that anxiety is like a interesting thing. Like, I think the things that give me anxiety now have to be like, it's got to be pretty bad to give me anxiety at this point. The things that used to give me anxiety probably are just like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do instead. And I don't know. I think that you like meet some business people that are in their like, 50s, 60s, 70s, and they can be pretty rigid and cold, and like, hopefully that doesn't like harden me too much. Hopefully this doesn't harden me too much. Something that I think about a lot because I have a 10-week-old baby, and so like, I'm like, well, I don't want to be this like hard person to her.
Sure. I think, as long as you're aware of it, then it doesn't happen that way, right? That's something that you do have control over, and to an extent, like the things that don't make you as anxious anymore. I think that's a really strong evolution. That's you growing as your company and your skills and your knowledge continues to grow.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing. Chadd, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, learn a little bit more about you, or maybe just like drop in and say hi, what's the best way that they could contact you?
I would say LinkedIn, but I probably get like hundreds of LinkedIn messages a day at this point. And so I don't check in LinkedIn as often as people would probably expect. I think like email me, like it's my first name at avrl.io. That will come directly to me. I think that that's probably a better way.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your story, and your wisdom that you've gained along the way. It's been really fun getting to know you.
Thanks, Whitney. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And to everybody else, we'll see you next time.